Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Doctor Who Guide. I'm your host, Alex Patterson, and today I am super excited to be joined by two amazing guests. I'm joined here today by Simon Fisher-Becker, who Doctor Who fans will recognize as Dorium Maldovar. I actually have an adorable little figure here ready to go. Welcome to the show, Simon.
Well, thank you very much. And yes, I have one of those Titan figures sitting on a shelf in my office. But this afternoon, I'm sitting in the comfort of my armchair in the living room.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you for joining us here today and returning to the show after, I mean, it was back in 2017 that I had you on the show, Luke. I'm so excited to have you on here, Luke Allen. Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun to be back. I can't believe it's been so long. I normally, like, when I'm returning to things, watch back the old ones, and I just saw how long ago it was, how young I was, and I'm like, I'm not watching this back. I'm not. I'm not going to enjoy this. But yeah, yeah, it's great to be back, and it's nice to sort of chat Doctor Who stuff.
This is very full circle. I think you were the first interview that I ever did on the channel. Of course, today we're actually talking about something that is kind of Doctor Who adjacent, chock full of Doctor Who alumni, and that is Henry House. You may recognize the project from a recent article in Doctor Who magazine by Mickey Lewis in issue 602, came out back in March. And Henry House is, like I say, full to the brim with Doctor Who alumni, both cast and crew. I like to say it has more Doctor Who alumni in it than there are jelly babies in the Doctor's pocket, but which makes it obviously very interesting to Doctor Who fans in general. Henry House is a comedy drama series about an eccentric but peaceful care home. Peaceful, that is, until a hapless new receptionist arrives and encounters all manner of colorful characters from residents to staff whilst trying to achieve just one goal in her new job, keeping it. So, I mean, this is incredible. One of the main characters is played by Peter Purves, who Doctor Who fans will recognize. Other names include Orla Jones, who plays Izzy Orchard, but Doctor Who fans will recognize Colin Baker, Sophie Aldred, Katy Manning, Carole Ann Ford, Colin Spaull, Annette Badland, Jacqueline King, Ian McNeice, Mark Benton, Bhasker Patel, Dominic Glynn, Richard Ashton, and Sam Watts. Wow, that's quite a list. Obviously, as well, Simon Fisher-Becker here as Jasper.
Jasper has taken over the care home from his parents, and they are excellent UK alumni as well, which you'll see in a picture. And Jasper's wife is Pamela, who is played by Annette Badland.
Yes.
So I have to pinch myself, really. So I've got Annette Badland playing my wife. I've got Colin Spaull playing our family doctor, and I've got Peter Purves playing my older brother. It's a and at one point they were all in my car. So
Yeah, there've
it's
been
very
so many
surreal.
days where, like, I've just sort of walked through, often like in the middle of another errand, walked into the green room or something, and it's just like, oh, there's a load of Doctor Who people. And weirdly, there's almost the surreal thing of there's a lot of Doctor Who people, and I don't have time to talk to them because I've got something else to do. And it's kind of it's very weird. So yeah, for reference, I'm production manager on the pilot, so I've been attached since I think it was tail end of 2021 when Gareth, the writer, director, showrunner, pitched it to me, and I've sort of been lucky enough to, I think, be a part of like the original like two or three people attached to it and kind of see it grow to what we never thought it would reach. And then yeah, we kind of get word from different doctors. Some of these Doctor Who people who've come through, it's literally been like almost getting a phone call from some of them being like, can I come and be an extra because all my friends are in this? And it's like, what a weird situation to be in. And so you've got the likes of like Katy Manning's just in the background of some scenes because she just wanted to come and join everyone. Carole Ann Ford's in a few scenes because yeah, like the word of Henry House had spread, and everyone, it's they're all so lovely to kind of have in one place and so much fun to work with.
There really is this thing of a Doctor Who family that, you know, once you're in that once you're in Doctor Who, you're a part of that family. And, you know, that might be connecting at the convention circuits and getting to know each other there. But it is also just this fact that, like you're saying, so many people just enjoy working with other people they enjoy working with. And it takes a special kind of person to connect all of those people. So kudos to you as well.
I think some credit has to go to Gareth
Yes.
Thomas, because he's been publicizing every microsecond that goes along, and that is what has helped the interest that get to the ears of other Doctor Who people who are thinking, hello, what's this? Oh, well, actually, maybe, let's see what it's all about, blah, blah, blah. And once they've got into the history of the project and the people we're working with and some of the partners we're working with, they're of course they're naturally interested. And I have to say thank you so much to all my fellow alumni for giving their time to support a worthy cause. And it also highlights people with special needs, and without giving away too much, one of our major characters is on the spectrum at some level, as is our worthwhile director. So it's a well worth project to get involved with.
And it's a fantastic script as well. Like it's, I think that's another thing that's drawn some people in. Is I've always been very, very happy to admit that it doesn't happen very often. But Gareth and I can't remember what it was about, had a massive falling out, and like it felt like we weren't going to actually work together on stuff again. And then he sent me the script for Henry House after it had been an idea that had been mooted around for a while. And I remember reading it and being genuinely angry because I was like, oh, I'm going to have to be nice to him now because I need to work on this. Yeah, that was a worthwhile decision to have made.
Yes, well, but don't worry, Luke. I have learned it's actually very easy to fall out with Gareth. So it's very easy to, but you just forget, you just sleep on it and you forget whatever discourse you had the next day and just get on with things.
Right, and I think it's worth pointing out that it wasn't just that it was a network of a lot of friends coming together and working on this project. You need more than that for people to donate their time. They need to see that the script is good, that it's meaningful, that it's that there's something special about this particular project. Clearly there was, to bring so many talented folks together. Luke, I wanted to ask you, how can people support this particular project of Henry House? When will it, this one in particular was a pilot episode that was filmed that we got to see the reporting of in Doctor Who magazine, but could you talk more about that?
Yeah, so for those who aren't aware, because we've had sort of a lot of emails coming through of being like, when's it on? When can we see it? Which would be like great if we had the answer ourselves. So at the moment, at the time of speaking, we are nearly finished, but there's sort of a few miscellaneous bits that we need to get done. But yeah, it's a totally independently funded, independently produced pilot. Every single member of cast and crew, including all those Doctor Who names you've said, no one's getting paid a penny. Everyone is just, we cover hotels, we cover fuel, and everyone is just giving their time out of sort of faith in the project, out of passion for it, out of support. And for that, like, we're forever grateful. So we hope that, and there are conversations starting, we hope that different networks are interested, that it becomes a full series. But yeah, at the moment, just spreading the word, sharing it around. If we've still got a few kind of big costs coming up in terms of the final stages of filming and post-production. So if anyone kind of wants to sort of help make things more comfortable, then they're very welcome to kind of get in touch and email info@rockinghorsemedia.co.uk. Or other than that, just Rocking Horse Media's social media sites, just share what you see. The more people who know about Henry House, the more of these emails that I've got of people saying, I really want to see it, where can I see it? The more I can then go to a network and go, hey, look, there's interest. And with a cast the size of what we've got, I mean, like it is a real sort of privilege to kind of get to see it. Some are sort of more cameos, like in the case of Colin Baker and Sophie Aldred. There's it's detailed in the Doctor Who magazine article, so it's probably sort of fair to say, is we became very, very aware of how many Doctor Who people we had, that we were like, we need to be sort of self-aware about it. And so it's one very minor scene in a hospital. Sophie Aldred comes up to her and says, "Excuse me, have you seen Doctor?" And then Colin Baker coughs over it. She doesn't hear the doctor's name. She says, "Sorry, Doctor Who," and that's it. Like we drove Colin Baker Colin Baker drove from London to nearly North Wales to come and cough. And it was like brilliant. And he nailed it. But yeah, that among so many other things, it's such a sort of surreal day. And obviously for a lot of the cast in it as well, that some of these are fairly big comebacks. I mean, Peter Purves hasn't acted on screen for over 50 years in a sort of proper dramatic role like this. Carole Ann Ford hasn't done anything for a while. It's getting to see these people kind of give their dramatic best. They're actors that I've been a big fan of for years, but there's performances even from Simon,
even from
yourself,
me.
Sorry, that sounded really weird. We work so closely, and I've always been a fan of your work, but there are certain snippets of performance where I was like, I didn't know they were capable of this. This is incredible. And yeah, there's we can't talk about it, but your first day of this block, the scene you did with Colin,
Oh yes,
was amazing. That's very, very spoilery, but there were like chills watching that scene.
yes. Well, thank you very much. But for me as well, I mean, I've been friends with Colin now for a number of years, but to actually have the opportunity to work with him and have a special scene as well was a privilege, and so I thank the production for that. But yes, it was good fun, and I am aware people have made me aware that I did something special, but I've got to continue doing that.
Yeah,
I just hope I'm consistent throughout.
Yeah. And you've got your final scenes with us next Sunday, which will be
next Sunday the 28th. Yes, and that's a dual log.
Yes, yeah, and I haven't actually mentioned this to you, Simon, yet, but I'm gonna be an extra in your final scenes.
Wonderful! Wonderful.
So the location, which I won't mention because even that's a bit spoilery. We did a previous scene in that same setting with Jax King, and I was in that, and so I said to Gareth, I was like, I could be there again, and so yeah, you'll sort of probably see the back of my head somewhere. But that was surreal. Kind of, I've done all the behind camera stuff, but doing a scene with Jax, who's Sylvia in Doctor Who, was incredible. Just kind of being in that sphere. It's so much fun.
I can imagine. I mean, the thing about working with people that either you've admired or been a fan of for years, it can, I think, the right type of person can level up everybody's sort of game, and they want to do their best, and they're inspired, and you're working off of somebody. I think there must be a little extra adrenaline rush, a little bit of carrying yourself with a little bit more posture.
Yes, I agree with that. When I first appeared in Doctor Who, of course, I was opposite Alex Kingston. I'm thinking, oh my God. So combined with the fact that I'm opposite her and that suddenly I'm in Doctor Who, having been a fan since William Hartnell, that was a very, very scary day. And then when they asked me back, I was opposite the wonderful Frances Barber, and who I'd only ever seen on stage as well as in and on the television in other films. But I was terrified, absolutely terrified, and we didn't actually get an opportunity to introduce ourselves. So it was a case of walking on set, sitting down. She did say something like "Morning, darling," and that was it. And then suddenly we're doing it. Wonderful, but we're quite pally now, so I'm very chuffed about it. So yes, but on the back of what you were saying, I absolutely feel that my bar was raised because I was working opposite these two extraordinary women.
Right. I mean, it only makes sense, and talking about your time on Doctor Who, you know, you mentioned watching from William Hartnell onwards. Was there a correlation between Doctor Who like inspiring you to, you know, become an actor or go into a creative sphere, or was it just, you know,
Uh,
something that you were a fan of that you got to work on down the line?
well, as a family, we watched Doctor Who because when it first started, that's what it was. It was really a family program, and I always and always surprised at how some drama students look on agog when I say we used to watch the television, watch Doctor Who, and then switch the television off. You know, yeah, and then we discuss what we watched. Now,
Wow.
I freely admit that I was 2 when it all started. So I don't remember the first episodes, but I do remember the last stories, the last couple of stories of William Hartnell, and of course him changing to Patrick Troughton. You know, so
Wow.
and this whole regeneration thing, and I remember I was going on and on about it and asking my grandmother, "Is that what happens when we die?" And she said, "If you ask me another time, you'll find out soon." Yeah, but uh, so so I was always interested in something sci-fi. My sister, who was 4 years older than me, introduced me to Star Trek. Yeah, you
I
see.
love Star Trek.
I was drawn into Star Trek. She then introduced me to the books, the Asimov books and things like that.
Mhm.
So I've always been interested in some form of sci-fi. And then to get the call from my agent to say I'd got the role of Dorium to be in Doctor Who, I was excited, very excited, shall we say. And it was exciting, and I have to admit, but again on that day, and of course I was a little disappointed that at the time it was just that one scene with
Right.
Alex Kingston, and it was a fantastic experience. She was absolutely adorable, and that's that. So then to be find that I'm called back to play the same character again, that was exciting, and then called back a third time. In fact, my agent phoned me, said, "I don't know what you're doing, but they want you back again." So,
You're doing something right.
so I thought, well, thank you for the confidence in me, dear agent.
You're like, wait, you're on my
So
side here.
it was exciting, uh, and then going to sci-fi conventions and meeting the wonderful fans like Luke. I met Luke first at a convention, and the fan. It was a real experience because I'd never been to a convention myself. So meeting fans, absolutely wonderful. Because Stephen Moffat told me he wasn't sure that he knew what he was going to do with Dorium, but he did want to do some more with Dorium. But it was the fan interest in me that made him sort of sit down and think about it. So I always joke now that I go to conventions so that I can look the fans in the eye and thank them for my new bathroom. That's my joke, but it's wonderful, and you just don't know. This industry is wonderful because you just don't know. So when Luke first met me at a convention, he wouldn't have had any idea that we would some way down the line work together and then appear on podcasts like this.
I was going to say you came to my 18th birthday party,
And
like,
I went to your 18th birthday.
we worked together so
Something.
often now, but it's yeah, nearly 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
There was a convention I went to. I rediscovered the photos not so long ago, and there were 3 actors I met that day at the convention. There's a picture of the 3 of them: Simon Fisher-Becker, Peter Purves, and Ian McNeice.
Yes.
And all 3 of them are in my phone book right now.
Yeah.
It's a very kind of weird, situation to be in, and there is that sort of step back. One of the things that Gareth had said when we talked about kind of all these Doctor Who guys who carved in Henry House, and it's a very sort of fascinating point that I think is such a sort of a great way of encapsulating what we want. Is he wants that one day people will sit down and watch old episodes of Doctor Who and say, "Oh, that's the guy from Henry House." That's kind of what one day to have it be the other way around. I think is such a sort of a nice aspiration, and I think what's sort of so fascinating is obviously you've said the general synopsis of Henry House is like, I hope it's appealing to Doctor Who fans, but it's obviously it's not like a sci-fi story or anything. It's a very personal story. I mean, one of the first things that Gareth said to me that excited me about the project was it's a show that celebrates the mundane, and I just loved that as an idea. Um, the sort of comparison he made, which I don't know how well it will go with American audiences, but he described it as Waterloo Road in a care home. Like, it's a very kind of the comedy comes almost laughing with the characters rather than laughing at them. It's very kind of gentle, but also there's some very, very kind of gritty drama elements as well. I think it's a sort of beautifully balanced script. It's really hard to say these things when I can't like say what they're about. But yeah,
there have been some very special moments in the filming, and I just hope that the editor is able to get that over. Yeah, because so many actors will tell you their best work has ended up on the cutting room floor.
Yes.
So, including Richard Burton, and Elizabeth Taylor, they'll tell you that. So, I just hope that in the final product does reflect not only the hard work, not only the talent, but the importance of the story that's been told. It is a very human story, I think, and it also highlights certain elements and certain disabilities that people can't see, and it brings in awareness of all sorts of things. And I would argue that it's a very social story, but not a socialist story, because we must avoid being political.
I think it's kind of it does a very good job at not being heavy-handed with kind of the points that it's making. It's very kind of we've got a very hate the word for the connotations from it. We've got a very diverse cast in terms of those from backgrounds with special educational needs and disabilities, and from various ages and everything else. And even like the story itself for the pilot is the unlikely friendship between Orla's Izzy Orchard and Peter Purves's Paul Hashimoto, and they are very, very different ages. Peter's in his 80s, Orla's in her 20s, and there's this sort of brilliant on-screen chemistry that I think even that kind of expresses the diversity of the stories, the kind of many different ways in which people can kind of latch onto it. And I think it also means it's going to be appealing to a very, very broad audience, we hope. But yeah, everyone who has been sent the script has said how much they love it, which is sometimes sort of, like I sometimes think, it's going to blow up Gareth's head at some point that no one goes to him and says this script's dreadful. But the truth is they don't, because it isn't. It's beautiful. It's very fine-tuned. He's done so much research into it, talking to different care homes, talking to every kind of disability that's represented in it. He has spoken to people with that disability and done the research to make sure things are portrayed well, even if it's one character in one scene. Like, the research has been done, which is lovely. And yeah, I really hope portrays well on screen. But there'll be a long list of consultants.
Yes.
Which it's just good. There's one which I reached out to just before we started filming, who sort of advised on a consultancy on a different level, which is with so many of our cast and crew coming from backgrounds with special educational needs and disabilities, including neurodivergence, which will include myself and Gareth and many others as well. There's a British children's TV show called A Kind of Spark, which recently got a load of acclaim for being one of the most accessible sets in television. And so I reached out to the director, and we've had a couple of phone calls and a couple of chats about those steps to make things more accessible and make things more comfortable on set. And obviously it's a constant sort of thing you need to keep checking in on. There are, you do make mistakes, but also it's kind of opening up that communication. One of the fascinating things was the easy read call sheets and stuff. Like, just kind of call sheets can be so complicated and so much information that isn't relevant to everyone. And so everyone gets the opportunity. And this, isn't just to cast and crew with disabilities, because I think that's important to not just do that. It's open to absolutely everyone. And there are people who have disabilities and people who haven't that have applied to get the easy read versions, because a lot of the information on call sheets is only really heads of department need to know, in terms of, what time all the other crew are getting in and things like that. And can't think of other examples, but what narrative day a scene is, things like that. That's not necessarily relevant to your day player actor. And so to just get a sheet that says, this is the time you need to be in, this is the scenes we're doing, this is the time lunch is, it's easier for everyone. And it's those very small, minor adjustments that can make the set feel so much more welcoming.
That's amazing. These small tweaks that as the saying goes, I think Sean Cannell says, small tweaks lead to giant peaks. So these small changes that mean a lot to other people. That's really, really cool. And as you say, this Henry House has a lot of really talented and experienced and Doctor Who alumni, but you've also given a lot of people who are new to the world of filming, who are budding stars, who are you've absolutely given an opportunity for people who are new to the industry to also be a part of this. And I think that's really cool as well, and special that you've got that balance there. And as you say, it leads to some really interesting combos of a 20-year-old and an 80-year-old acting together, and that might not be something that mainstream media would necessarily think to showcase. And so I think that's really cool. What are some more things that you said, the easy read call sheet, that's amazing. What are some other ways in which you think film sets can adopt making things more accessible? I mean, we've had the TARDIS, right? Have all of a sudden it's wheelchair accessible. That's an amazing thing to add into the show. So what do you think about that?
Well, I have to say, throughout my working career, not always. I mean, I have mobility issues, so I had that issue to deal with. The BBC are excellent. All the projects I worked with. So after Doctor Who, I worked on a series called Puppy Love, and my character was written by the wonderful Joanna Scanlon and Vicky Peppertine, with me in mind. That's the power of Doctor Who, that they thought, oh, we'll have him, we'll keep him in mind. So my character was agoraphobic and lived in a caravan. So, but getting to and from the set and everything, they made sure that I had easy access. There were a couple of scenes where I'm supposed to negotiate stairs, and of course, the show would have to be at least 50 minutes longer for me to be seen going downstairs. So they work out way of doing shots. So they do a shot to me at the top of the stairs, and then they'll do a cutaway to something, and then they'll come back to me at the bottom of the stairs and things like that. So, and the BBC in particular are very good at that. On Henry House, they've been very good in ensuring that I can sort of get around the buildings that we're using, and it's nice to see. But it's also very interesting. Some public buildings, for example, they'll provide a ramp for you to get up on your scooter or your wheelchair, but then you find that the door opens outwards. So if you're by yourself, you have to grab the door handle, wheel your way back, and then hopefully the door will stay open long enough for you to get through. So that there are still little issues like that to be dealt with. As for the project itself, Henry House, using students from the college, as I've mentioned, but there are also other young people starting out in their career. It was very interesting watching Leon Bone. He's a major cameraman, but as well as dealing with the job of filming, it was very clear he was training somebody at the same time. And it was lovely to see, and I had no issue with them taking a bit longer to set up a shot, because I could see that he was also showing and not only showing what needs to be done to this young chap, but why. And so there's good. So the whole project is very good. It's taking on people who are not normally taken seriously. It's giving opportunities to younger people, and of course, as we've touched on, for me professionally to be able to work. I mean, to have Peter Purves playing my brother, he's again another one of those things you would never have dreamed of. And furthermore, he's superb, utterly superb. And I don't mind how gushing that sounds, but you have to be in the room with him when he's doing his stuff. It's adorable and a privilege. And of course, I've worked with Annette before. We seem to be cast as husband and wife several times, so people have started to talk. But she's delightful, and that's it. Really, it's a project that is. Helps people. And I think, generally speaking, I have found since I've become less able, that most people are utterly understanding and very friendly. In fact, some of them go out of their way to help you. You know, mothering could become smothering, but you mustn't complain. But you get the occasional vacuous person who can be quite nasty, but you just have to take that. You have to take that. In the workplace, it's often considered that somebody who's disabled or somebody who is large, that they are non-productive, that they are lazy. And so I found in myself, particularly when I was in sort of quote proper jobs, I worked doubly hard to prove that I am capable, I am productive, and I'm not lazy. But then you get yourself a reputation of getting things done, and then you have more work piled on you. So you never sort of win, really. But this project, Henry House, takes on everybody, and it can show what people can do given the opportunity.
Amazing. What a great pitch.
I think, obviously, I think, what I also have to say is it's a project that took a chance on me, and the fact that, I've not got, I'm 20, I was 17 when we first started talking about the project. Like that, the platform that I've had and the chances and opportunities that I've been given don't happen to 20-year-olds. Like it's been very fun and very great to kind of get to production manage something of this scale. It can be terrifying some days. There's some big scenes where there might be like 30, 40 people that I've got to make sure all their transport's sorted and accommodations there and everyone's there at the right time, but not waiting too long. And like it can be exhausting. But I also now know, how long things take for next time and the things that are hurdles for future stuff. And, I think it's sort of such worthwhile experience. And I think these sorts of lower budget independent projects are the perfect way to kind of cut your teeth and stuff. I was having a chat with a TV director friend of mine the other day, and he was basically saying, that he misses doing stuff at this level, that actually there's a lot more work that goes into low budget independent stuff than goes into the TV, the big professional scores. Because when you've got money, things are easier, things are quicker, things, are running tighter, and to kind of get to kind of be thrown in the deep end, and then realize you can swim is very, very very, very
the only thing about being thrown in the deep end is the fear, but once you've got through that, it's wonderful. I've worked on many a project, both in television, film, and on stage, which producers with champagne ideas, but only a lemonade budget. And the people that you have to really admire are the people behind the scenes, the stage makers, the costume makers. It's amazing what they can produce with only an apple, an orange, and a badge to pay for it.
Yes. A tea kettle and some string is often how Doctor Who's budget has been described.
And there's no harm in that. There's some wonderful stuff, although sometimes the quality of the sets sort of mocked, what you find out was where you have lacking in the production quality of the set, you actually have a decent storyline.
Yeah, and it's amazing what can come of particular, the creativity that comes out of certain restrictions. I mean, obviously, it's not to say that you can do amazing things with no money, but there are some really special things, as we've seen come out of Doctor Who and some of these different projects where the creativity comes out of having this challenge of how do we do this on a budget and make it work. What's interesting with comedy, and I've seen this quite a few times in something like what Annette Badland was in Ted Lasso, you have this show that kind of draws you in with this comedy, and you're like, oh, I want to just sit and relax and laugh in the evening, and this is funny, I'll watch more of it. And then you have these moments of just incredible drama that just sort of surprise you out of nowhere, and you're like, wait, I didn't think I was watching a drama that would make me cry. Like, I didn't start watching Ted Lasso to have a good cry, but here we are. And so I see that in what you're describing as a comedy drama of this really having this nice balance of like you said, not laughing at but laughing with the characters, and then being
pathos is a wonderful thing. It's not easy, I have to say, because it's all to do with timings and things, really. I mean, the difference between a tragedy and a comedy is timing. Some people disagree with me when I say that, but it's absolutely so. Because sometimes,
So I was just going to say, I think it was Mel Brooks who kind of very jokingly talked about the difference between comedy and tragedy. I mean, lots of people have, but I always remember there's a quote from Mel Brooks that said, tragedy is when I cut my finger, comedy is when you fall in an open sewer and die. And it's the idea that both with timing, it's the distance as well. It's the sort of, you're closer to characters, it's tragedy. If you're distant, it can be fun. And that's so fascinating, because I, as well, production manager, I write a lot of comedy. I do a lot of sketch comedy, and that's a totally different process where the characters exist for the jokes in sketch comedy. It's kind of, they can afford to be two-dimensional at times in order to surface the joke. And so kind of I've had lots of interesting conversations with Gareth when we've gone through the comedy of actually, oh, this would be a funnier joke, but it doesn't make sense for the characters to do this, or it doesn't, or sometimes it's the type of humor that doesn't exist in the real world. Because for a show that celebrates the mundane, like, I'd say Life is a comedy drama. I don't think Life is a straight drama. I don't think Life is a sitcom either. I think, Life is a comedy drama. You laugh and you cry. And sometimes
things that are going on things that are going along in the political world on both sides of the pond at the moment, you have to laugh, because you couldn't have made it up. Had you written it in a script 10 years ago, people would say you're being far-fetched.
Yeah, the truth is stranger than fiction.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the American series which did the pathos thing extraordinarily well, and there was well character-led, was MASH, in my opinion. MASH did it brilliantly. You had these characters having to survive in an extreme, quite violent situation, but they made it funny. And then they made it funny. You're laughing, and then they turn it on you, and then you're crying by the end of the episode because they brought something brilliantly done, in my opinion. Others, again, because everything is subjective, isn't it? What I find funny, you might not find funny, And but I mean, there are some shows that I watch because people are telling me this is brilliant, you must watch it, and I don't see it. I don't see it at all. But I also freely admit there are some shows I've watched that I hadn't thought much of. But when I've gone back and watched them another time, I'm thinking, yes. Now, one of those was Red Dwarf. When I first saw the first couple of episodes of the first series, I thought, there you go. But then my husband Tony said, "Oh, you must watch it again." And then I found actually I did, and I love it. Love Red Dwarf.
Absolutely. I think too, it's also, you're right that time, either giving something a try later on, or the time in your life that you're more receptive to things. But for me, I've also found that the enjoyment of a show also comes with who I'm watching it with, versus necessarily what the show is. I've had shows that I wouldn't have watched another episode of if it wasn't for my brother saying, "Hey, you gotta. I love this show. You gotta watch it." And so I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll watch it with you." And now I'm coming to enjoy those shows because I've watched several episodes. You get invested in the characters, you know.
A series I go back to every now and then. I don't know if you get it in the States, but it's called Upstart Crow. Okay, so I recommend people. But another series which I thoroughly enjoy, but others don't like, is What We See in the Shadows.
Oh yes,
right. And
my brother loves that.
And another show, and I think Luke agrees with me, is Taskmaster.
Oh, I love Taskmaster. Oh my gosh.
Yes, absolutely. We actually look for it. I say to myself, "Oh, it's Thursday. That means he's Taskmaster." So everything I'm doing in the day is leading up to the point of watching Taskmaster, which some people would think is very sad, but there you go. But absolutely
strangely, bar last night. No, I don't know why we did last night. Normally, Simon and I end up having an exchange straight after Taskmaster of like, it's so kind of, because it's just silly for the sake of silly, which is also, I think, very, very important. I think, we've spoken a lot about pathos, and that is very important. But I also like just laughing because something's silly and there's nothing else behind it is also so important.
I think this new series has a slightly different feel with it, because in the past, there's definitely been people have been very competitive, right? Yes. Whereas this, I think on this occasion, I think they're all competing, but there isn't the aggressive competitor aspect to it, or it hasn't come out yet.
Too much.
Yes, I do know, and I think they just like being on the show. But I like the cleverness of it, and it
is. It's such a hilarious and amazing show. I remember getting into it during the. I got into it slightly before the pandemic, and then I loved that they would post their full episodes on YouTube so that people in the US could get it. It wasn't one of those shows that sounded great, but I had to have iPlayer, and so I couldn't watch it. And that meant a lot during such a tough time to, like you're saying, get used to having the show on a particular date, so that was something you looked forward to. I love that, and I love what they're doing with this new series of Doctor Who. Every episode looks like a movie. I'm so excited for it. I can't wait at the time of filming. The
latest trailer has been very good, I must admit. No. I'm a fan of Doctor Who, and I don't really want to know what's going to happen, so I'm a bit disappointed with all these sort of spoiler or spoilerette things that keep on, or they talk. I could never understand. My sister-in-law used to read every magazine to find out what was going to happen in her favorite soap.
Yes,
and I'm thinking, well, why don't you wait?
I know some people find that they enjoy something more when they know everything that's going to happen. But I too, I feel what you're saying. I don't want to know a lot going into it, but being a Doctor Who YouTuber, you end up finding out a lot of spoilers before they happen. But what I love, and I hope that we can get more to this as we're getting 8 episodes this season. I love that feeling of like, oh my gosh, it's Saturday, there's another Doctor Who on. Like having a show that you can rely on, like Taskmaster on Thursdays or something, it gives structure to your day. And I find that there are certain shows that I watch that I'm like, I get sad when we get to the end, even if it's a 26 episode season, because I'm like, I just don't want to get to that part of the year where it's not on that Thursday
Doctor night. Who, you're getting a better release time than us, aren't you? But,
for once, time zones are working in my favor. This is amazing.
I jest. I'm not overly bothered. I'll probably, for the first one, the only irritating thing for me is I work on Saturdays, and I also work somewhere where it can sometimes be very, very slow, sometimes very, very busy. But it means I would be checking my phone, and I'm going to see spoilers, so that's a little bit irritating. So at least the first 2, I'm probably going to just come to work tired and stay up at midnight
Yeah,
and
yeah,
watch them.
absolutely, absolutely.
But for me, Doctor Who, it will always be special. And what I have found since being associated with Doctor Who is the spin-off aspects for me.
Yes,
I've literally
yes.
travelled the world. Unbelievable. Because of Doctor Who, I have travelled extensively in America, Australia, New Zealand, Europe. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I got to do put my one-man shows together because of Doctor Who. And from that, a publisher came along and gave me a book deal. And so I've got 3 books out there, and I've got a 4th book coming out soon in June.
Oh
So,
wow, well,
yes.
that's amazing.
So my first book was called My Dalek Has a Puncture. Right, and it's an autobiographical anecdotes. The second book was My Dalek Has Another Puncture, and the third book is Let Zygons Be Zygons. Right, okay.
Amazing.
And this is my deliberate plug. All available from Amazon. And in June, it's planned. It's coming out. My latest one is called Vlogging a Dead Horse. So, watch this space.
That's incredible.
The pre-order or something. I don't think I was aware of the new one.
Well, I've been sort of beavering away at it, and I have a different publisher for this one, and they do really flog a horse, you know. So I've had to. They've given me tighter schedules to work to, and I've been rather annoyed when I haven't. Sort of.
Is it another sort of memoir thing, or is it?
Because one of the spin-offs, because of Doctor Who, I started doing vlogs, and the reason was I was getting people contacting me, and generally they ask the same questions. So instead of giving the same answer to 20, 30, 40, 1,500 people, I thought what I'll do is I'll answer their questions in a vlog. And then that's how it all started. And then my vlogs have come up. So people will ask me any question now, not necessarily about Doctor Who. And I also put up postings on my Facebook page, like on this day, if something sort of takes things. So, for example, yesterday, the 18th of April, 1692, one Abigail Hobbs was arrested and accused of being a witch at the Salem trials, and she was only 14, and so under the pressure she confessed and named other people, and as a result, hundreds of people were arrested. Many were executed, some died in jail, and so I've just put up a little posting like that, and people like that. So then I have found, particularly in America, thank you, Alex, I get teachers contact me and say, "Oh, can you put up more postings? Because I like it. It acts as a springboard for a class that I want to prepare."
Amazing.
So I've been asked if I could put the vlogs in book form.
Right.
So vlogging. Oh, and the reason it's vlogging is, when I first started doing them, you'll always get a nasty comment from someone. And 1 or 2 people will say, if you think you're going to be an influencer, you're flogging a dead horse, they say. So I thought.
That's amazing.
So the book consists of a transcript of the vlogs and then an explanation of what was going on at the time for me to actually deliver that vlog.
Very cool. Very cool. Cool. Links to that will be in the description down below. Absolutely. Yeah. And
it's due for publication in June. So and in fact, I gave reference before we started this that I had a meeting, and that was with the publisher.
Wow, very exciting. So, you know, as you said, you've both been so lovely to have on the channel, and you've both been so heavily involved in this project and Doctor Who, and so I appreciate your time, and I want to be respectful of that as we come up on the hour. And so, you know, just any you know, we've heard about, you know, Simon's upcoming projects. Anything that either of you want to promote, let people know about, now's the time to do it. And we'll put the links in the description down below.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the sketch comedy and other stuff. I have my company Ask Seek Knock, which is sort of not the same company that producing Henry House, but a lot of my stuff is now coming through there. I could have gone really more all in with the place. I got that mug here.
Yeah, look at that.
I could have like really forced it throughout the interview. But yeah, all of my stuff is at www.askseeknock.co.uk. You can find out sort of details about whatever I'm working on there, and then I'm on all social media at Ask Luke Allen.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then I guess search Rocking Horse Media for anything Henry House related. That's, I think, Rocking Horse Media on Facebook. Yeah, it's different on Instagram and on Twitter. I can't remember the specifics, but you search it up, you'll find it. Or, you know, go up to any of our casting conventions and ask them about Henry House, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to tell you more.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you both so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
It has been a pleasure because it's been very different. You listened to what we said and you followed up with sensible comments that we could extend the conversation. So thank you, because all too often these people have their 20 questions, and regardless of what I've said, they will ask question 5 after question 4.
Yes,
with no proper segue.
Oh, I'm so glad that style has worked too, because that's an intentional choice that I try and make with my interviews, and I know it can leave people to who want to kind of know what we're talking about in advance kind of a little bit more nervous. So I'm glad to that you've enjoyed this style and that it's worked out. And
oh, that's great, and thank you for including the Titan Dorium.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
If anybody else buys those Titan models, I'll get 0.003 pence. So my bank manager will be looking forward to that.
I remember being with you once, Simon, when you got the when they aired. I think they just aired the Harry Potter film you were in, and you had like a check post for about 4 minutes.
It is people sort of think we sometimes earn a lot of money, but we don't really earn what people think. And I do. It's 84 pence I got for something, and it came. And you know these big business checks that used to be like that sort of size. It came. So I didn't bother to cash it. I just put it in a picture frame and hung it in the toilet.
So I remember there was one that I think you went to Kim, your agent, with, and just went, there you go, new bookmark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. So
it's amazing what's aired in Mozambique. Yeah.
Wow. All over the world, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're right on the hour, so I want to just again say thank you for joining me and coming on to the channel. And if either of you have more projects that you want to promote and talk about, I'd be happy to have you back on the show.
And thank you very much.